if you're struggling how to figure out how to train volunteers at your church for your production ministry, well, we're here at Fellowship Church in Grapevine, Texas, and we're with Alexa Page, the audio engineer here on staff. Alexa, I'm assuming you end up training a lot of volunteers for production ministry.
Yeah, we're almost solely volunteer driven. We don't do, I'm the only staff person back here. So it is all volunteers. Our control room is all volunteers. Our camera team is volunteers. So we really believe passionately that volunteers should be involved in the local church.
Okay, and I love that because you guys are a pretty large church.
Yes.
I mean, like thousands of people coming on the weekends?
Yes.
And it's not like you're buying inexpensive equipment that's uncomplicated, yet you're still your mission and your vision from your leadership is we're going to put volunteers in place to do this work.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we even think about that as we're thinking about what we're going to use to integrate. Right, when we looked at the 338, I was between that and the Avid Desk, and I had to pick what's a little bit easier for a volunteer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of at the forefront of all of the things that we're choosing kind of all of the time.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're talking, a 50-person church all the way up to you guys are one of the largest churches in the country, we're still having to train volunteers. So, even before you're talking about the person, you're talking about the gear, you're making intentional decisions.
Yeah.
Is this gear going to be trainable for our people? So what are some of those real world things you think about when you think about, is this gear usable for volunteers or is it too complicated?
Yeah, I think we're multi-site. So I'll start at multi-site and kind of go backwards. So at multi-site campuses, I'm thinking about what do I have everywhere that I can pull in? A Dallas volunteer, can they come here and easily help me with an event?
Yeah.
Are those things going across all campuses? I'm also thinking about what our students are using in our children's ministry. What are they using? Oh, they have, M32s. Okay, well, does that translate up and across what we're doing? And so I've kind of thought about some of that stuff was in before I got here. But as we did this upgrade, it was, well, what's going to fit the best? What are people going to be able to navigate pretty easily?
Yeah.
And how do we create step-by-step guides for them to be able to do some of the harder things that are really not as hard once you break them down with screenshots and those kinds of simple things for a volunteer to be able to follow. So that is actually very intentional in all of the things that we kind of pick. Is this volunteer friendly? Are they going to be able to keep up? And are there resources out there? Right? I didn't pick an SSL desk because there's not a bunch of resources out there. Right? They're esoteric and they're cool and they sound awesome, but they're not friendly. And so that's important. Sounding good, right, is important.
Sure.
But can a volunteer hang is also really important.
Okay, so you made your decision on the gear. You've decided, okay, we're going to buy gear that we can actually train our volunteers on. And then, where are you looking for resources? YouTube, the internet? Are you making your own?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a blend between those. We use MXU quite a bit, and actually our campuses have Behringer wings. And so MXU has a ton of resources for Behringer wing. And I don't assign videos. I just kind of say here's how you can use it, campuses. Call me if you need help. And I have some of our production managers who do use that a lot more structured than we do. And then we also create guides on our own. So we call them step-by-step guides here. And so for every position and everything that we do, everything from hospitality in a green room to control room lead to monitors to setting up baptism on the weekends, I have a guide that I can hand to a volunteer, and it says, step number 1, you're going to do these things. And then step number 2, you're going to do these things, and you find them here. And so we've been really intentional with that, and including screenshots and pictures of where these things might be or what they might look like, because you might not know what an XLR cable is when I say it, but I've given you a picture.
Okay.
And so I can hand that to anybody and say, hey, go do baptism and send me a picture when it's done.
Yeah.
And they can do it. So that has taken a lot of work on this side to put those together. But now I can have a brand new volunteer go set up baptism with very little input from me. And it's right 99% of the time.
So you're creating step-by-step. Is it as much as training you what you're going to need to know as thinking about what don't they need to know? Because, a mixer of this caliber probably has 10,000 features and menus that you could get lost in.
Yes. And we use about 50% of the drive that the desk has, right?
Yeah.
I'm not using mustard processing. I'm not doing all that. We are using Waves. And to be quite honest, my volunteers don't know how to kind of operate Waves. We set it up and it's in a state where it's kind of set and forget. And so there are, a great example is we pan all of our vocals in everybody's ears. And so I had a volunteer, somebody asked one time, like, hey, can you pan her to the center? And he like looked at me and he was like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, let's do it. Let's learn. And so now after a couple of weeks, like he is able to do that on his own, but we take those kind of organically, right? I'm not going to show a first week volunteer, like, here's how you pan. Like they don't even understand, if they're not from the audio, like musician world, they don't understand what that even means in their head.
Yeah.
And so we kind of wait for some of those things to come up organically. But I will show you, oh, here, these are the buttons and this is what you're doing. Do you hear what you're doing? Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it is kind of buried on this desk. So, it takes a couple of times, but that is, I tend to do a lot of that more organically than some of the more basic things of like just bringing the levels up or changing the gain.
Yeah.
Which we're all gain controlled from front of house. So that makes it a little bit easier.
Got it. So you decide the gear intentionally for the volunteers. You create some basic step-by-step guides to help get them up to a certain level. Okay, now you've got the actual person week one.
Yeah.
How does that flow start as you begin training them?
Yeah, so week one, I'm going to pair them up with a volunteer who's been here a lot longer. And I will text that volunteer beforehand, hey, so-and-so is coming this week. They are brand new. Do you have capacity to train this week, right? It's never like, hey, you're going to train this week. I believe really intentionally that like some of these volunteers come because this is like the easiest place for them in their week.
Yeah.
And I've had volunteers say like, it's actually been a really hard week. Like, I don't know. I'd love to come and serve, but I don't know that I have capacity to teach.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I'm asking our, more experienced volunteer, hey, do you have capacity to train this week? Oh yeah, you do. Awesome. Okay. So they're going to be here. I have new volunteers arrive for our second run through. Our first run through can be a little crazy sometimes. And so I like to get us kind of settled before I bring in a first time volunteer.
Yeah.
And so that first time volunteer will come in and they'll hang out. I'll get them a pack. They'll wear their in-ears. They'll stand here while I'm running about doing all kinds of things. And my experienced volunteer is just walking them through. Oh, you heard, our EG1 player just call for more of the lead vocal. Okay, well, I'm going to click EG1 and that brings up his mix and we're going to do this. And so they're walking through kind of each step at a time. So that's week one. We debrief. How'd it go? What do you think? Do you like it here? Did this feel fun or did this feel like it was too much? And we kind of assess, like, is this a right fit for you?
Yeah.
Because more than anything, I want volunteers, but I want volunteers to fit into a space that they feel like they belong.
Yeah.
And that is going to be fun for them to come and serve. So we debrief that. Week number 2, I do ask them to serve a second week in a row. For some volunteers, that's a lot. And we work with that. But I do think that there's value in consecutiveness when you're learning a new skill. And so I asked them to come a second week. And they're often paired, because I work on a rotation, paired with a different volunteer, which is helpful because they get to see somebody else's workflow. So week number 2, we actually let them drive. And I let the volunteer know, hey, so-and-so is new. It's their second week. We're going to have them kind of click the buttons, but I need you shoulder to shoulder with them.
Yeah.
Like, don't leave, don't leave.
Yeah.
Don't walk off. Like, I still need you. And so then they'll work through and they'll come at 7 for our first run through, see that, kind of experience the whole gambit because it is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it's, oh, hey, did you hear so-and-so called for, oh, remember you click this one first, right? And we're coaching through that. And I have more responsibilities than just audio on the weekend. And so I'm in and out, right? And they can say, hey, Alexa, they can call me on comm. Hey, Alexa, we need help. No problem. I'll come over. But they're really able to kind of do it on their own.
Yeah.
And then the third week, they're on their own. And it's just me and them.
Okay.
and I always tell my band, hey, I've got, a third week volunteer.
Yeah.
This is their first time on the desk. I need you to be patient. I need you to remember that you need to say your name or what you're playing before you make your request.
Yeah.
I know your voices, they don't. And we have some tools and tricks set up on the console if they're paying attention that they can figure those things out. But I've found that reminding my band that there's somebody new makes them more patient and it makes them actually better at asking for requests.
Yeah.
And so that has been really helpful in our kind of high stress moments of like, I've asked for that 2 times. Oh, okay, well, remember, it's a first time volunteer back here. And those are not conversations I'm afraid to have.
Yeah.
I will go out there and say, hey, it's a first time volunteer. Let's take a deep breath and let's like try again.
Yeah.
I'm here to help. I'm here to support you, but we need some grace.
Yeah.
And so that volunteer is going to work through that whole service, and we'll see kind of at the end, like, how did it feel? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Was it stressful? Because it is, right? There is some like high pressure points that happen back here. And my goal is that they say, no, I loved it. Or yeah, it was really wild, but I loved it so much. And then they'll get into a rotation. And so I'm pretty quick to get people involved. We figured out, and this was years before I was ever here, that people found out that if you get them pushing buttons quickly, they're going to stick around.
Yeah.
Because they feel some type of ownership in kind of what is happening.
Yeah. And so you're saying week 1, 2, and 3. Are you meaning literally week 1, week 2, week 3? We're not talking about like seasons. Okay.
No.
And do you intentionally do it where you say, if you want to get started, we need you to serve 3 weeks in a row to keep that muscle memory consistent?
Yes.
Okay.
And I tell them that right away. When I get a text that says, hey, so-and-so says they want to be involved in production. Cool. We're going to give them a tour. And as soon as they say, hey, I want to be, I'd love to try to serve back here. Awesome. I need you 3 weeks in a row. Can you commit to 3 weeks? Well, no, I have my daughter every other week. Okay, that's cool. Can you commit to every other, but 3 in a row?
Yeah.
Or can you figure something out? Like if I get childcare, would you be willing to come? I believe in that kind of crunch time of let's get you in here and let's get you learned quickly.
Yeah.
And that will get us moving, I think, faster.
Now, 3 weeks feels like it's very quick, very short. Does it depend on the position? Like if it's just, fourth camera, you can learn it in 3 weeks, but the monitor desk, no, that takes 6 months. Or do most things you can actually do it in 3 weeks?
I would say monitors is actually the thing that takes the longest. Most camera volunteers are going to observe 1 week and then they're going to serve the second week.
Okay.
Control room, I think Daniel would say no, they're going to serve the first week. We will have people shadow to make sure that that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But then it's, hey, okay, it's your turn to run it. And I'm going to sit shoulder to shoulder with you, right? There's going to be somebody or someone, maybe a volunteer, maybe a staff member who's real close. Switcher would be one of those ones where maybe there would be 3 or 4 weeks. And then we have a clock position that can get a little bit tricky because we do some traveling. Pastor travels between here and another location and comes back, and that gets a little funky.
Yeah.
But we are very passionate about very quickly, you're going to get involved. Stage crew, 1 week. You're going to get partnered with somebody, and then next week you're doing it.
Okay. And are there any positions here at Fellowship that are never volunteer driven? There, a staff member runs that position.
Yeah, our front of house engineer is a staff member, so it'll be Kevin or I.
Okay.
And then our producer is a staff member. And then our camera director is primarily a staff member, but we do have a couple of people that we will kind of rotate in kind of as needed.
Yeah.
But it is mainly a staff member.
And how many people does it take to produce a Sunday morning here at the broadcast campus of Fellowship?
At our broadcast campus, it's about 30 to 35, depending on, that includes stage. So that kind of includes, depending on what we're doing with the stage, if we only need a few people or if we need a full, 10-person crew.
And so of that 30 to 35, how many are staff members?
5.
Okay. So largely volunteer driven.
Yes.
And then if you need 30 volunteers every weekend, you have to have how many committed in your database?
Wild. A lot. We have a huge roster.
Yeah.
And there are some people who serve every other week. There's some people, like our stage team actually has an awesome rotation of once a month. And that's been really great for them. And he's got a team deep enough that works.
Yeah.
Our camera team, it's kind of person by person. And that's been really developed over the last few years. And our control room is the same way. So I have a rotation of about 4 people that we rotate through, and most of them are every other week.
Okay.
It's just kind of what we found is the best option.
And so if you end up with a couple hundred people in your volunteer pool with 5 staff members, just to train a couple hundred people would be a full-time job.
Yeah.
So you're actually creating this cascading effect where you're training volunteers and they're training volunteers.
Exactly.
And they're training volunteers.
Exactly.
And then do you do any specific things out of the norm where maybe you gather everybody together, do special trainings? What happens when a new piece of gear comes into place? How do you guys address that?
Yeah, new gear doesn't happen here super often. So that isn't necessarily something we do often. When we got the 338s 2024, beginning of 2024, there was a big like, hey, we got new gear. Like everybody, you're going to come in this weekend. And because that integration was a little bit wild. And we got the desks on a Tuesday night and I had to do a Wednesday night service. Wow. And then we did Sunday.
Yeah.
So I like sent some videos to volunteers of like, hey, this is what's happening. I'm going to run it for a few weeks, mostly because I got to make sure all the bugs are worked out. Like there were still some like process things that happened that we were still not confident in. So I was like, I want you to come. I'm going to show you what we're doing, but I'm going to run it for a couple of weeks just to get things sorted. But we do often gather our team together. It's something Daniel's actually really passionate about, that we gather our team to make sure that they feel loved and cared for.
Yeah.
And so we try about once a quarter. Obviously, the church schedule is a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And so we hosted a barbecue at our house this past summer. We invited all our volunteers, which was really sweet and really fun. And there was no expectation. There was no build that I needed done. There was no anything. Just come hang out at our house and we're going to grill and bring a side and hang out and like be with people.
Yeah.
And the amount of people who said like you don't understand how much we needed that was really sweet.
Yeah.
And a good reminder, I think, for our team of like, oh, people do want community rather than just the 3 hours that they're here. And then about once a month, we host a team night with our creative team as well. So it's all worship and production. And it's kind of one of those like, come if you can. Yeah. We typically will worship together and then do a little bit of vision, which is a big thing here at Fellowship. Like you lead people with vision. And so we give them a little bit of vision about, hey, here's what the next month is going to look like here at Fellowship Church. Like, we can't wait to see you. Can't wait to be here. We hope you know that you're loved. Kind of some of those things. So we do that about once a month. We host Bible studies that are creative only. And so I host a women's group at our house twice a month that's been really, really sweet and really rewarding. And there's a men's group as well, and they do that. And so we have lots of different options for people.
Okay. All right. So if I can summarize some of the steps, deciding on the gear to make it volunteer friendly, creating some resources, even gathering some resources for step-by-step trainings on how to use these things. You want to get volunteers in and you want to get them touching the buttons fast because it's really boring to stand there for 6 months and just see things happen.
Exactly.
And so in 3 weeks, they're pretty much up and running on their own. And then you intentionally do some, bigger gatherings to pour into them. Yeah. This is great. I mean, whether, again, you're a church of 50, you're a church of 50,000, this is all scalable stuff in order to train your volunteers and get them up and running on your production team in just 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for watching that video. We know how difficult it is to keep Sundays running at your church, and we know a lot of it is about the gear. So we want to give you an exclusive 5% additional off anything, even if we're running a sale. Even if we're running a sale, additional 5% off, grab the code in the video description below.